Hey, good job.
Holy crap. I think we are live. This is incredibly embarrassing. If you guys can hear us, can you post something in the chat?
Hey, good job.
Okay, we did it. Oh,
Holy
Jesus
crap.
Christ. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Sorry about having this. This is an absolute nightmare on our end. I added some third-party software and I uploaded it to OBS Studio, so there was a huge issue starting this on time. But thank God we figured it out. We did some Google foo. We finally got it up and running. So as you can see, it was going to be a bit of a surprise, but we had to jump right into it. Sitting here and talking with us today is none other than Esfandiar Baraheni. He is a contributor to The Athletic. He is a host for Raptors Republic, sideline reporter for the Canadian Elite Basketball League, contributor for Bleacher Report, and star of the Sun Life commercials. Welcome to the podcast, S.
Oh
How you
God.
doing?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, man. Until you mentioned my unbelievably bad free throw shooting in the Sun Life commercial. But
Yeah.
no, I'm kidding, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you very much. Yeah, let's talk some hoops, man.
Awesome. Yeah. So Steve, how you doing? How was everybody's Thanksgiving?
Always fantastic, some turkey and some family. Would have been nice if the Jays got that one, had the whole family around the TV for that, but game three, we'll see what happens.
Cool.
Sure.
So, what I want to talk to you about, I want to pick your brain, S, because I have some questions about the Toronto Raptors. And you are, I mean, obviously, if you're a Raptors fan, you've probably seen S around. He obviously star of commercials, but he has a lot of really valuable information that he doles out online through his social media channels. Maybe you've seen him on Raptors Republic or, through The Athletic. He's pretty omnipresent. The guy is very busy
Busy
and he
man.
knows a lot about the Toronto Raptors. So I want to kind of talk to him about the Toronto Raptors preseason and what he's seen so far. Has there been anything that's kind of jumped out to you about the Toronto Raptors, maybe that you didn't expect watching them? I know that they've played the bench quite a bit, but is there anything that you're seeing that you didn't expect right off the bat?
I mean, no, I'm apparently omnipresent, so I can predict all. I can imagine and believe everything. No, I'm kidding. What has surprised me about this Raptors team? I don't know if there's anything that has specifically surprised me. I think basically everything that we thought has happened. I guess I would say the seamless connection of Ingram and RJ. They look really good together. I think
Yes.
that was a surprise for most people, just because a lot of the questions coming into the season was how do those two play together on the floor? How do all three of Scottie Barnes, Brandon Ingram, and RJ Barrett work on the floor together? We still haven't seen how that might look. But I think as far as the two together in BI and RJ, they've worked really, really well together. I think the fact that they kind of understand where each other likes to be on the floor. Ingram's, mid-range repertoire really helps him seek out a bunch of attention, especially in the middle of the floor, and that creates open opportunities for RJ to either cut to the basket or knock down, catch, and shoot threes. And RJ has been a pretty good catch and shoot three-point shooter since being in Toronto. So that's what might be the most surprising part. But to be honest with you, I think everything else is sort of par for the course for the Raptors. Some of the offensive struggles for Scottie might be surprising to some, but I do think it's just kind of him adjusting and figuring out what his new role on this team will be. Otherwise, everything else between the defense and Sandro, kind of seamlessly working in this Raptor system, all of that has been what I would have expected it to be so far.
Yeah.
Yes, Santro's been a pleasant surprise with that. Not that I'm surprised about, like, I know that's kind of his ability and he's sticking to his game,
One second.
but
One second. Sorry. Steve, can you turn your mic down slightly? Because I had to turn the
okay.
volume up for S. But yeah, I'll
Yeah,
let
sure.
you continue your thought after that.
Sure. Think that did it.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so just we've been anxious about Sandro actually performing because there's been so many failed attempts at getting these kind of shooters in the past. So
Hmm.
we were kind of hesitant to immediately jump on it and be like, okay, yeah, he's gonna be the real deal. But he's delivering on everything that we hoped he would be. So that's just like, I don't know. It's a pleasant surprise, but it shouldn't be. But it's just great to see, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. I think like the 3-point shot really hasn't dropped as much as I'd
Yeah.
like
Just
it
that
to.
first game, but
Yeah,
yeah,
just that.
after that.
Yeah, exactly. But I do expect that to come around. He's a good above the break 3-point shooter too, so it's a different type of floor spacing than just being a guy who can knock down corner threes. I think that's a good part of him, like attacking closeouts and making plays, which is a big feel thing for a big man. You know, a lot of people talked about him as like the Chris Boucher replacement, and I think that's the biggest difference between him and Chris Boucher
Hmm.
is that he can actually put the ball down on the floor and make plays and make reads, and so. Mamu just works really well. He's a Darko type of big, and so I expect him to be a pretty big part of this team, and yeah, live off when Jakob is off the floor. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's what I noticed, like in the training camp videos and interviews that they did prior, to preseason. Darko was like really talking up Sandro. That kind
Yeah.
of made me sit up and take notice because, I mean, the Raptors have signed guys like smaller contract guys and they've gotten a chance, but I think it was more speculative in a lot of
Hmm.
the cases, like with Wancho and with Svi. Those guys were kind of just like, yeah, we'll give him a shot. Whereas I feel like Sandro is maybe more of a key piece, at least in Darko's mind, prior to the season. So.
He's probably the first Darko type player that they've signed. Svi was under Nick Nurse, if I
Right.
remember
Yep.
correctly, and then McDaniels was the other guy that they brought in, and that was the first season Darko took home. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's probably Mamu is the first guy they've signed that has been a very Darko type player. I'd imagine, honestly, them trading for Kelly Olynyk was also a Darko type of move because he just fits so well with what they like from their bigs, right? I think they like those types of bigs that can make multiple decisions. Again, like dribble, pass, shoot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the type of guys that they like a lot. And again, Mamu just fits the build for what they like.
Absolutely. Okay, so I have a question for you.
Throw it my way. What do we got?
What I wanted to talk about was this team seems very committed to transition offense, and I
Hmm.
think that shows up with their defensive priorities, and also there's something that I've really noticed is that, and it's continued. Maybe last game was a really good example of this, was that the transition offense is such a priority that it seems like they're forcing it. It seems like they're really going all out on trying to get transition baskets. And as a result, they aren't very efficient on transition plays. Because last season, they were, I think, top 3 in terms of transition possessions and
Hmm.
bottom 3 in transition efficiency.
Efficiency. Yeah.
So, what's your take on that?
So last season, there's a few reasons why they were bottom of the league in transition efficiency. First, I think Scottie was at the helm of that. A lot of like instead of getting to the basket in transition, it was I'm gonna settle into this mid-range jump shot in transition, and also the way. Tracking data works is sometimes transition can also be like pseudo transition.
Yeah.
So maybe it could be like a 4-on-3 type of situation. And even in those situations, Scotty would like work into the mid range area and try to get a mid range shot. RJ's rim efficiency was down last year compared to his first year with the Raptors. And so some of those transition opportunities where RJ was kind of leading the way, he was missing some of those shots in transition. Even though RJ ended up, I believe, 5th in fast break points last season across the entire NBA.
Wow.
So he still had a really, really good transition year. But those were probably the two reasons. And also, Emmanuel quickly, is a pretty good transition player just because of his ability to catch and shoot threes, to knock down open threes, to be a good pull-up shooter in transition too. And not having him and him being unhealthy really limited how good they could be in transition.
Yeah,
On top of that, they played a lot of young guys, man. So
yeah.
like there's so many reasons I could point to for this team not being as good transition. But honestly, a lot of it comes down to Scottie, truthfully. Like he was again one of the most frequent players to get out in transition last year, but was also one of the more inefficient players in transition. That feels like a clear lapse in terms of what he can be versus what he is. I think part of that, because we've seen him be a really efficient transition player before. You know, think of like the years, you know, especially rookie year, second year for him when he was playing off of Pascal. It was him catching the ball instead of him initiating the action in transition. So that's why the Raptors are incorporating more hit-ahead passes this year, and it's more catch-and-go stuff. So, you know, Ingram will grab a live rebound. Scottie will already be at the half-court line. They'll hit ahead to him, or it could be, you know, Scottie grabbing the rebound, and RJ's already at the half-court line. They're looking to hit ahead to him. So it's just that type of stuff to get things going quicker. And I honestly don't expect them to stop anytime soon with the transition stuff at all. So
No, it seems like that is like integral to Darko's system. I'll give you one of my theories here about the transition inefficiency. One of the things that I noticed was that transition inefficiency relative to the league in terms of the efficiency of that play is low. But when I was running the stats, it was their most frequent play. It was, even though it was very low in terms of the compared to the rest of the league, in terms of the rest of the types of baskets that they got, it was actually much more efficient than like their half court.
Yeah.
So they were like,
that's for sure.
so like, yeah, it's not as good.
They were. I mean, that's like comparing. I don't know. I don't have an apt comparison for that, but like that. That's like comparing a very, very good thing to something that is
like the worst slice of pizza is better than, you know, a fruit or something.
Yeah.
But like
exactly. Like steak that is you know, extremely well done steak that looks like a car tire compared to something else. Yeah, I agree. That's the sort of comparison we're looking at here. The Raptors were so bad in the half court.
Yeah.
And basically every single play type you look at, they were just not efficient at all. And
I know it was very difficult to find some
honestly,
sunshine there.
like, you know what? We'll see how good Brandon Ingram is and how much he'll up. I was just talking about this on another pod this morning, but like, I'm asking a lot of heavy lifting out of Brandon Ingram, you know? And I think we all are a little bit. We're all expecting them to just kind of everybody elevate their game because of BI. I think there still will be half-court struggles. I think we've still seen it in preseason, even when BI is on the floor. But yeah, that's why they're leaning on transition. Yeah.
Well, maybe we can talk about that because like it feels as though like the NBA has moved, I think, away a lot from like isolation play and just kind of like dumping it to one guy and having the rest of the team play off of him. But at the same time, it seems as though you still have to have one of those primary like star initiators and a player that the rest of the players can play off of that can lift your floor. And in terms of like, that is kind of what we saw, I think, last season. I feel like the offense, when it worked, it looked really good because there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of like read and react. Like it looks pretty when it works, but it felt like a lot of the time when the play didn't succeed, they didn't really have someone who could just get a basket or warp a defense by themselves. And when you add a guy like Brandon Ingram, it seems like that is going to raise the floor of the team where you don't have these like completely empty possessions where there's like no shot creation whatsoever.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think that's one of the main reasons they got him, so that if that offensive system doesn't work, Brandon Ingram was one of the best guys at like the final 10 seconds of a clock. Go get me a bucket. You know, he's been that over the last few years in New Orleans, and I think they're expecting him to be that again. So work within the Raptors offensive system, of course, pass, cut, you know, dribble, shoot, 0.5 basketball as everybody has coined. But if that does bog down and they don't get anything, then it's all right, Brandon Ingram, here's the basketball, work your magic. And I think we will see that quite a bit this year. That's why shout out to, I can't remember if it was Samson or Trey, but we did our awards pod and one of them suggested Brandon Ingram for clutch player of the year. And I mean, in an ideal situation, yeah, that kind of makes sense because he will be asked to make and take a lot of big shots for this Raptors team. And their defense will probably keep them involved in games. So there will be a lot of clutch opportunities. And so, yeah, that's the type of heavy lifting they're looking for from BI for sure.
All right,
Yeah,
Steve.
I don't remember how many games it was last year, but there was over a dozen of games that they lost by less than 5, where they just did not have anybody who could carry that load at the end. And like you'd have games where RJ played a fantastic game, but then he's got to come up with the game-winning shot, and it's like a fading one-legged three from above the break. We didn't have it. So that alone, I think, yeah, if they can stick in those games, that can add 3, 4, 5 wins alone just by having somebody for those possessions.
Let's see. I just wanted to double check. So last year they played 32 clutch games, which is actually they didn't play that many clutch games, to be honest with you. They're 27th in the amount of clutch games. They were 10-22 in clutch games last year.
That tracks.
Yeah, they were not good at all. You know, it's funny. So the Knicks played less clutch games than the Raptors. They played one fewer game of clutch.
They played one clutch game against the Raptors. If you the jersey popping game that instantly soured me on them.
Yeah. And they have 9 more clutch wins than the Raptors do.
Well, Jalen Brunson. Yeah.
Which makes sense. Even the Wizards have more clutch wins than the Raptors did, which is
okay. Let's
crazy.
Hey, whoa. Calm down there.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. Okay, so we were talking about Brandon Ingram, and I think that a question that's pretty germane, like it's kind of the other question here. Brandon Ingram's going to come to the forefront in the Toronto Raptors offense. There has been a lot of talk online, and I'm sure you've seen it, about Scottie Barnes, and I think that his struggles in the preseason have kind of brought this question to the fore and really kind of taken it to another level. And obviously people love to overreact, but what do you think is his sort of offensive role, at least for this season? And do you think people are too high on him or too low on him, or can you not get a sense at this point?
People are probably too low on him right now, just because I think the consensus after a down year, not a lot of people, especially nationally, probably watched a lot of Raptors basketball last year. They just know and understand that Scottie had a down year. The Raptors weren't winning a lot of games. And so probably consensus around the NBA is that people are probably lower on him than usual. I think that can change a lot with winning, just because he's such a good defensive player, just because he's a wildly talented passer. And so his utility, good rebounder too, and his utility, even without the scoring and the offensive punch, will still be there. Like, he provides a baseline. I actually did a video on this recently after the Wizards game, because that's what the conversation was about, right? Like, what's wrong with Scottie Barnes offensively? And like I broke it down, like, look, even regardless of the scoring issues that you're seeing right now, he still provides so much utility everywhere else on the floor that I think there's a baseline to the type of player that he can be just because of that. So people are probably too low on him. Yes, he probably gives you positive value every single night. The offensive side of the floor, though, from going to training camp and seeing what people are saying and what Darko said, what Scottie said, what other guys have said about what Scottie's role will be this season, I think it's all but assumed that it'll be fewer touches, fewer on-ball creation opportunities. He'll be working more as a screener, as a finisher, as a guy in the dunker spot. But truthfully, we haven't seen that at all in preseason. Like, we haven't seen that at all. Yeah. And partially that's because we haven't seen him and Brandon Ingram share the floor too much. But we also just haven't seen him do that whatsoever without BI. It's been more of what we saw last season, which was the mid-range creation. It was the three-point shooting. It was like figuring out how to get his rhythm going for his jump shot. And, I've asked Scottie about this multiple times. Last year, he said that he was looking to experiment, that he was trying to figure things out for his game and test out certain areas. You saw him be more physical in certain points of the season and more looking for his 3-point shot in other parts of the season. Now it feels like he's kind of replicating that exact same thing,
Hmm.
even though the statements from training camp were, my role is going to be different. I'm going to be more of a finisher, going to be more of a screener. So like, it's just the visual is not matching the
Yeah,
audio. You know what I mean?
absolutely. Uh,
So that to me is kind of curious. I'm interested to see how he'll look once the team actually hits regular season and if that changes in any major way. It also depends on like what kind of player he envisions to be for himself, you know?
Hmm. Yeah.
Like I get that Brandon Ingram is on this team, and I get that in an ideal world his role has changed and he will just become accustomed to that role immediately. But I do think he probably envisions himself being a on-ball shot creator who can work off the bounce and be in that mid-range area. I don't know if that's necessarily what the Raptors currently envision for him on this team. So I think Scottie is due for a more efficient season offensively if he wants to. It just depends on whether he actually ends up doing that. That's the main thing.
so I'm thinking that this might be like a top-down idea. And the reason that I say that is because when Bobby went out in front of the media at the beginning of media day, he kind of gave me that impression when they were talking about like obviously they were going through all of the different players. He was talking up Brandon Ingram, talking about how he can be like basically what we said, his role in the offense. And then they got to Scottie, and he listed all of the things he liked about Scottie. So like leadership, passing, defense, rebounding. And then at the very end, he said like, and scoring, I think that it's going to come easier to him with Brandon Ingram on the floor. And he's going to, and basically said what you said.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that was the plan. I think the plan is to kind of like reduce his role. And I'm just wondering, just like obviously preseason isn't, carved into stone. It doesn't actually count. So he still could be experimenting. But I kind of share your sentiments. Like, is he on board with this? Has he bought into this? It'll be interesting to see as the season progresses. So
I don't know. Steve, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how much of his current decisions have to do with not even having Yak on the floor with him, because I know there's a couple like numbers and stats and stuff that he's got a like almost a 10% higher rim frequency when Yak is on the floor because
Hmm.
he does struggle to get downhill by himself.
Yeah.
So a screen from Yak or as Samson pointed it out, he in all those clips of him just cruising to the net. It's when teams are going under on screens, right?
100%.
Instead of putting all the pressure on his handle and stuff, right? But if he envisions himself as somebody who can, get his handle off and get inside, it doesn't really line up because he seems afraid to test that handle
Yeah.
against any small guard and everything like that. So I kind of think like he makes it harder on himself than it has to be when if he can get those and like I know he's done this in the past where he is trying to get an early seal, an early box out, and he's got his hand up and he doesn't get the pass, and it's like he's working for almost nothing. So I think in some instances when he gets that, the pass has to be quicker to reward that effort that he's putting in
Hmm.
to get himself those kind of in the paint because if he can't get into the paint from his handle, then it has to be from those kind of him using his strength, getting inside positioning, and then like because he makes it way harder than it has to be compared to somebody like a Mobley who is very good at kind of operating the dunker spot or even like Bam who
Yeah. Well,
it
those are like traditional bigs, right? This is a
yeah,
guy who's
they're a
like
lot
worked.
taller, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's yeah, it's really interesting. You mentioned the rim frequency and like how honestly Jakob impacts that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think of what Scotty used to be with the Pascal and Fred group, where like he was just feasting off of advantages they created and
Yeah.
attacking a tilted defense. I think there should be more opportunities for that to happen this year, like strong side cutting, like the 45
Mm-hmm.
degree cut that Ingram did in the opener against Denver, where he cut to the basket and finished. I think it was Sandro
Mm-hmm.
that passed it to him.
that
Like
was a
those are the
really
same.
nice play.
It was a really nice play. Those are the same opportunities that should be provided to Scotty, right? And they're available to him too to work off of the ball. Um, it depends like how willing he is to do all those things also. I think the idea that because they're gonna lean on him. I talked to Darko Rajakovic with Raptors Republic. I did an article on like staggering lineups, and
Yeah.
they're gonna lean on him to run bench units. So that's no Jakob. That's
Hmm.
him plus Mamu plus CMB plus maybe one
Shed.
of the Shed, and I don't know, either IQ or RJ or someone, right? Another starter there with them. Maybe Grady. I don't know. Maybe they think of Grady as like a six starter. I'm not sure. But um, that is going to be a lineup where he is asked to carry,
Hmm.
right? And that's like 4 or 5 minutes a night in the first half and 4 or 5 minutes in the second half of like, hey, can you carry this unit for us? That doesn't have a great screener on it. And so
Yeah.
how is he going to facilitate offense for himself? Maybe this experimentation that he's doing right now is to figure out how he can get that side of his game
Right.
going. So
That's
with
interesting.
the
Yeah.
right with the starters, you'll see him run that same 45-degree cut action, or like you see him working as a dunker spot guy, or you see him being a better screener, because truthfully that's another part. Scottie needs to be a better screener.
Yeah.
So you see him maybe doing that when he's with the starters, and then with the second unit he can have more freedom to work on ball as the creator that you see. So maybe it's
That's
just a
interesting.
double-edged sword there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about, because you're not just a Raptors guy. You are a NBA generalist. Like you have, like you are. I mean, you're watching an NBA game right now, right? Like you've got a second screen. You're watching a game.
I do. Yeah, if you see me peek over here, it's because I'm watching Bucks Thunder in preseason basketball. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Well, that's actually a pretty good matchup. But the Eastern Conference is in flux this year.
Mhm.
I want to know, like, we can talk about the seeding and who's going to be at the top, but do you have any like sleeper picks in the East? And also, do you have like kind of the reverse of that? Do you have any teams that are kind of projected to be some of the top teams in the East that maybe are a little overrated?
My sleeper team this year, it just so happens to be the team that I cover, but it's the Toronto Raptors. It sucks because like every year I have a sleeper team. Like last year, I was like, y'all better watch out about the Pistons.
Yeah.
This is going to be a great year for them, and it turned out to be excellent. I was actually low on
Good
them
take.
compared
Good
to how
take.
good they got. So. But yeah, this year is going to be the Raptors in terms of the team that I think people are sleeping on. I mean, like. That yes, they won 30 games last year. Yes, their over-under win total started at like 33.5 to start the offseason. It's crept up to like 36, 37, I don't even know, 38. So it seems that bettors are also leaning that way. But I would still say they're over 38. I think if they don't win, if they aren't above 500 this season, there are big questions. And if it
Hmm.
wasn't an injury-riddled season, if it wasn't
Yeah.
one of those seasons like last year, let's say they are fully healthy this year, barring a couple of injuries here and there. If they're healthy and they don't win more than 41 games, there are going to be a lot of questions that have
Heads
to be
will
answered.
roll.
Heads will roll in many directions. And so, yeah, look, I think this team has expectations to be good, but also I think they will exceed those expectations and be better than people think. In terms of teams that people like but probably won't be as good, probably one of the teams I'm watching right now, the Milwaukee Bucks. I
Yeah.
love Giannis. I think Giannis is one of the best players in the East. I think he has an argument for being the best player in the East, to be honest with you. Actually, he is the best player in the East. Joel Embiid is never healthy, so I'm going with Giannis. Um, He's also one of the best players in the NBA, one of the 3 or 4 best players in the NBA, depending on who you ask. I just don't know if the roster around him makes a lot of sense. People forget that Damian Lillard was an all-star last year who did like 23, 5, and 5. He was a bucket for them. He led them to a lot of wins by himself. And so you're removing that. You're adding Miles Turner, who I think can be a good player, but not as impactful as Damian Lillard. And the depth there, I just do not believe as much as I believe in, like, I don't know, the Hawks or the Pistons or the Pacers even, truthfully. I
Hmm.
like the Pacers. I
Well,
think they have a chance to be pretty competitive. So that's the team. Yeah.
Yeah, the Pacers are like, they were deep even when they, were fully healthy. They
Mhm.
have like a lot of guys that took reduced roles. So now that a
Yeah.
little space is opened up, it seems like they might just keep rolling. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
Nemhard especially, I think is going to be one of the surprise. Well, maybe not a surprise, but I think with a minutes bump, for him, I think he has a chance to really explode onto the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wanted to talk about like where you're saying like the sleeper team is the team that you covered. Steve had a really good theory about kind of why maybe NBA generalists are so willing to kind of go against the Toronto Raptors. Steve, do you recall that what you said?
Refresh my memory. No, I
Well,
don't.
you said that people like there's a positive feedback loop when you like if you bet against a team, okay, and they are bad multiple years in a row, you feel more confident in doing that, right? You feel like you're being rewarded essentially for having a stance. And I feel like a lot of the time right now people are looking at the record before. They looked at the Jakob Poeltl pickup was panned by everybody. I mean, in the context of what it was, like I think there's been a reappraisal of the trade, especially from Raptors fans, but a lot of people said that didn't make any sense. A lot of people didn't like the Brandon Ingram trade because like why are the Raptors trying to trade for this guy, and because like they should be tanking, et cetera, et cetera. So there have been these moments where it's kind of reinforced the fact that the Toronto Raptors are going in the wrong direction or they've made bad trades in the past. So they feel more comfortable in betting against the team. And instead of looking at kind of like the team on paper, like looking at all the players that they have, they're going kind of with a feeling that they've had and has been reinforced for them. So,
Yeah, I think that's definitely that has some merit to it. I think people just have preconceived notions about the last few years of transactions and how this Raptors team has gone. And honestly, I think me and maybe both of you guys, like there are valid questions about the long-term aspirations for this team. Like I don't think any of us are sitting here and saying this is going to end up becoming a championship level roster as it currently stands. How do you build on top of that is a very valid question moving forward for this Raptors team. That doesn't take away how good they might be this year and what they can build on moving forward. So I, I think there's like two different conversations to have about the Raptors. One that is about this season in the short term and the fact that they're in a lackluster Eastern Conference and what that means for their chances of competing specifically this year, and an overall one about
the
how
direction
they're
of the team.
the direction of the team and how they're going to move. And by the way, I still think the Jakob Poeltl trade was crazy. I think that was
Oh yeah,
nuts.
no. In terms
Given
of
where they were at the time of the trade
Yeah,
and who was at
I
stake.
would still go ahead and say that is nuts. That is absolutely wild that they did that. I love Jakob. I put him in
Yeah.
my top 10 Raptors all time list, partially as a joke, but partially because I really do love the guy. I think he's like a great underrated center.
Mhm.
But you had a chance to add a perennial like guy.
Oh yeah,
Whether
Wemby.
of course,
Exactly.
even if you remove Wemby from the equation, you got like Amen Thompson, you got Asara
Yep.
Thompson, you
Yeah.
got the like. There were a lot of good prospects in that draft, and so I don't see the vision there.
Yeah, it's not even about the cost of that pick because obviously where that pick ended up, nothing crazy was getting drafted
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
It's about the opportunity cost
for
of
sure.
what that trade did and how it didn't work out and everything. But
But it is what it is. Exactly.
exactly,
Like
right?
it is.
Like
It's done. You can't.
yeah,
How many times are we gonna harp on the Jermaine O'Neal trade for the Raptors? You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like
yeah,
chalk it up. It's over. It's finished. We know that was something that like they probably might end up regretting in the long run. But like how much they regret it will depend on how much some of these young guys pan out. That's also a big part with like everybody talks about how expensive this team is. Well, that is true. But
hmm
also they're banking on a lot of their young guys
yeah.
helping them remain cost effective. So
For
I was
sure.
talking. Can I ask you guys a question real quick?
Go for it.
Over under on Grady Dick's contract next season. Nikola Jovic is the bar. So over or under that. Jovic, I believe. Hold on, let me double
Was
check.
it
I believe it was
24?
6. I don't know. Hold on one sec. It was 4 years. 4 years, $62.4 million. So about $18 million a year. Over or under that for Grady. By the way, he can sign his extension in the summer. So
hmm
Listen, if you asked me before the season started or preseason started, I would say under. Because
Okay.
I don't know. He's been very inconsistent. I think even his supporters and would say like he's shown up for one season split in half, right? The first season, the first half was very bad, second half was good, and then vice versa for the second season. But I'm really liking what I'm seeing from him in the preseason, and that doesn't mean a ton, but I'm way more confident than I was prior to the preseason. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I think if they see him as like, I know his defense isn't going to take a major leap or anything like that, but if he can just get a little more suitable to fit with those lineups, if they see him as like as minimum a sixth man, like at least let even alone even a starter, I think it'll be over that 18. But if he's looking like a guy who's a seventh, eighth man, you can't go over 18. I think you'd be pretty screwed with your contracts at that point. Realistically, from what I've seen, he's looking great. He's looking, and I think he's going to be able to, like Darko mentioned, I think that he was going to have him in some lineups with Yak and stuff like that, that he really liked those. So it's good that they are really game planning to have him at his most effective. I don't think that like he worked perfectly with Scottie itself, so it'll be interesting to see basically where they stagger them and everything. But it does seem like they're game planning for keeping him around. So yeah, like I think I'd go over, but under Giddy, like not up to that.
I would say like it's crazy. It's hard to pick, but I would think it was probably under Giddy. Yeah, absolutely under Giddy.
Yeah, like
Yeah, no way.
I know
Over.
we tend to overpay people a little bit, but we're not going to go crazy, right?
Yeah. That would surprise me a lot. I think like, Corey Kispert is getting paid $15 million a year. Kispert's older, but he's also I think he's a more refined player currently. We'll see if that ends up being some sort of barometer for what Grady is. Jovic, I think, is a pretty decent barometer too, because like they're paying him for what he will be,
Right.
versus what he is, and so there's a little bit of that too.
I like how we're comparing all only white guys here, Jovic and
fair enough.
Yeah,
fair
no,
enough.
no, but point taken. But the thing about Corey Kispert is like, it just seems like he's only a shooter. And Grady has shown me some stuff, especially with the athleticism. The athleticism has kind of popped off of the page for me, at least, the vertical athleticism. And I think that to go along with that, the rebounding as well has really been a nice thing. And I think that that's a way that he could contribute to the Toronto Raptors that doesn't involve, running around screens, spacing the floor. I think that if he could be like, per 36, like 5-ish rebounds a game, I think that could stealthily earn him some minutes off of the bench. So,
yeah, that's fair enough. I don't know. We'll see. I'm high on Grady. I'm probably on the higher side of what he can potentially be. So we'll see what the contract looks like.
I'll be the spoiler. I'll be the hater. I'll go under 18. Okay, so we had a pretty interesting take. We shared a take, which was Darko Coach of the Year.
Yeah,
and like you, I think Steve said that you mentioned this on one of the other podcasts that you were on.
Yes.
That you were taking Darko for Coach of the Year. And I think that dovetails super nicely with the Toronto Raptors being a good team. And obviously, I mean, you can't really win unless you win games. But I think that in terms of, my theory was that everybody is underrating the Toronto Raptors. So if they do succeed, then everybody's going to be like, wow, this coach must be a super genius to take these bums that I thought before the season and make them a playoff team or whatever. Yep. So
look, it's the same thing from the Pistons for last year, right? They won. What did they win? 17 games the year beforehand, or something crazy like that.
Monty was that has got to be the biggest case of coaching malpractice I've ever seen. I'm not even talking.
That's theft.
He was incredibly. That's the finance manager right there. He knew what he was doing. He got a signed 5-year guaranteed contract and
he said,
"I'm
playing Killian Hayes. I'm gonna play Killian Hayes until they kick me out."
Yeah, he's a bag chaser. Monty Williams. Look, I think there is a case for a lot of coaches, and there will be leaps for multiple teams. I think the Spurs in the West might take a leap. We'll see how they look. I think Portland has a chance to take a leap. We'll see how they look. The East, there's obviously like Atlanta has a chance to take a big leap. Orlando has a chance to take a big leap. And I think they're being primed to be like the darling team of the Eastern Conference just because of how young they are. The media loves Paulo Banchero.
Hmm.
And so like there's a world where Jamal Mosley is in the coach of the year conversation. But I do think there's a case for Darko just because yeah, this team won 30 games last year. If as all of us expect they win 44, 41 plus, that's an 11 game improvement, maybe more.
Yeah.
If they're in the playoff conversation, if they're top 5, top 6, top 7, compared to last year where they ended up 12th or something.
Unfortunately, they didn't lose enough, but I'm happy with the pick. So
it is what it is. Yeah. They are in a pretty good chance for Darko to win some games. That said, I also think there's a decent amount of pressure on Darko.
Oh, yeah.
That raises the expectations because again, this team, we've seen it so many times in sports, but like if something doesn't work out, the first guy to go is the coach, right?
Yeah.
And so this team is the same as every other organization that has gone through that. When you have that risen expectations. Also, I will say, like, I don't know necessarily if that's true because Bobby Webster said there's no real expectations for this team this year. They didn't go out and say that, they didn't declare, they didn't put their stamp on it that they're trying to be a playoff team. Darko didn't put his stamp on it that they're trying to be a playoff team. They're just trying to do the 1% better motto.
Yeah.
So, but did you hear Yak's interview in?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Because he kind of tipped the hand when he said like, from the top of the organization to the bottom, the expectation is to make the playoffs. So I think they're playing it like
playing coy. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see how they look and also how willing they are to like let guys develop. You know, if they're making mistakes and if they get yanked quickly, then we might see those expectations change.
Right.
But I do think there's pressure on Darko because
For sure.
Again, coaches are always the first people to go if things don't go the right way.
Yeah. Also, he's in year 3. I don't know what his length of his contract was, but I assume he will be.
He got a 1-year extension, so.
Okay, he got a 1-year extension. Okay, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The not quite a lame duck, but getting there. I am definitely interested. And first of all, I mean, you got to say, I think everybody is on the same page here. Is that I think we're all pulling for Darko. Because he really does seem like an awesome guy and has that sort of uncommon rapport with the players and the ability to. What I was really impressed with him, the 2 tanking seasons. You look at a team like the Detroit Pistons and how they were faring under Monty and obviously they were in the mud for a lot longer than the Raptors. But you see all these tanking teams and it seems like the vibes are in the gutter. And when you see the Toronto Raptors last season, even when they were like in the midst of those like long losing streaks, it seemed like the team's morale was pretty high and that he was getting them on the same page and making sure that people didn't get in, like they didn't get in their heads and really give up. So
no, he's a good coach, man.
Yeah,
and he's still one of those guys. I mean, like I've walked into practice the last couple of weeks and it's like he's working with Olivier Sarr on his catch and shoot threes. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't.
That's awesome.
That's not necessarily something he needs to do, but but he's doing that as a way to kind of showcase like he still is watching everybody out there. So he very clearly is a good coach. Has the personality to be able to like rally the troops and make guys believe. And now I think that's why there's a level of pressure. It's like you've galvanized the group. The guys like each other. There's an offensive system in place. There's clearly a defensive system to what you guys want to aspire to on a night-to-night basis. Now you got to actually execute. Now you got to pull out a sideline out of bounds play to give Olivier Sarr a game winner. Now you got to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that's those are the expectations now with being a coach that's trying to win. So
yeah, they've accumulated there are 7 former lottery picks on the team now, and that's not a full indication of talent, but it's like they've been grabbing guys and
Pretty
accumulating
crazy to
talent.
consider that, actually. I didn't know that. Yeah.
It's the first time since 2013 at that beginning of that season,
Wow.
which if you remember, they pulled the plug after they started terribly, got rid of Rudy Gay, all that, switched all that up, and then
Yeah.
went on their run, right? So hopefully it's not an exact replica of that, but that
But
was a
maybe it
winning
is.
season, right?
But
So maybe
maybe it
this
is. Yeah.
exactly, right?
Look, I've made the comparison, and I remember, I can't remember who it was. Ryan Wolstad, I think, of the Toronto Sun. He wrote an article making the same comparison and saying, look, you have like the three guys who were battling for spots in
Yeah.
Brandon, Scottie, and RJ, and that was Kyle, DeMar, and Rudy at that point. You had this kind of like mishmash roster of guys who try really hard, and like the Amir Johnsons and Ed Davises of the world. And you also were trying to figure out like what you were as a group. You had some interesting young players in Jonas Valanciunas, and you had like I believe Terrence Ross was on that team
Yep.
too. So you had these younger guys who were trying to pop up and do bigger things, but you also had this three-headed monster that was trying to figure out who they were. That is so similar to what this team is. And there's also obviously the trade rumors with RJ and what
Yep.
that means, and everything like that. But there are some similarities between the two, that's for sure. Yeah.
One more thing,
Yeah.
like I think I just want to go back to the underrating of the Toronto Raptors, and I think it goes to what you were just talking about with the DeMar, Rudy, Kyle Lowry fit. And I think always the fit with that group was that it was just like too many of the same thing, which was like having too many players who wanted the ball. I think one of the strengths of the current roster, and this is one of the things that I've never understood some of the media guys, the generalists, like the NBA guys saying that this roster doesn't fit very well together. And I was always like, is that the case though? Because it seems like they have gone out of their way to find players with like, first of all, look at the positions like Jakob Pertl at center, Scottie at a power forward. Like, it's not like they have that like redundancy that a lot of like bad teams have. Like that Raptors team was like really redundant in what the skills were. It seems like this one has a good mix, and maybe the players aren't the best. Like the talent level maybe isn't the best, but you have, I think, good players at the major positions and enough of a different skill set among those players that I don't see why people are so down on the fit and what the Raptors are doing, at least this season.
Yeah, I think first of all, basketball has changed a lot in the last 12 years too. So like that redundancy that you saw on that roster just doesn't happen a lot in the NBA today. And so like I'm trying to think of redundancy on our rosters. Like Sacramento Kings right now have a redundant roster. That actually honestly look very similar to like a 2013 roster.
For
where you're
sure.
like, what is
Including
this
one of
group
the
even
players.
aspiring? Yeah, including one of the players. Yes. So they have a pretty redundant roster. I'm thinking like, there's probably a few other teams that I'm not thinking about. Chicago Bulls probably have a pretty redundant roster. A lot of guards that kind of do similar things, and so you wonder how they're all going to mash together. I think the Raptors, just because they have similar positioned players, people think it's redundant. So because RJ is a wing, because Scottie is a wing, because BI is a wing, because quickly I wouldn't necessarily call him like a traditional point guard.
Yeah.
He's more of like a 2/wing, but just a smaller guy. And they obviously have Jacoby, who's a wing, and Grady, who's a wing, and CMB, who they're shaping into a wing/big, and Mobo, who's a wing/big. And so you can see why that redundancy conversation is there without necessarily diving into, okay, what are the different skill sets for all of these guys, right?
Yeah.
Which again is just a part of like, not everybody is going to watch a Raptors team that won 30 games. That's just the unfortunate part about it, or maybe fortunate for people who actually didn't watch all 82 games.
Fortunate for them, yeah.
Yeah.
Not us, but
Yes. So I think that's part of the conversation, is just the narrative stuff for a team that you don't watch often. Like, I'd be lying to you if I watched a ton of Brooklyn Nets games last year. I did not watch, other than the Raptors games that we saw, I did not watch a lot of Brooklyn Nets games. Didn't watch a lot of Washington Wizards games either, but I'm excited to watch the Washington Wizards.
I am too.
So like,
Fun
there's
game.
just things kind of go through these ebbs and flows. Teams go through these ebbs and flows, and I think the Raptors were definitely on the downturn, and now I think there's a little bit more league interest, which is going to help people understand who these guys are. Like I remember I was listening to a podcast, and this guy, I can't remember who it was. He kept saying like Jacoby Walter's name wrong. He kept saying Jacoby
Ochai
Walker.
Abaji is the you remember
Yeah.
in Inglorious Bastards when he holds up the three and
Yeah,
it's the
exactly.
wrong, it's not the
It's
Germans,
Yeah.
right?
yeah,
It's
exactly.
that
Yeah,
is
exactly.
literally just
Ah,
listen
yeah.
to him, Ochai
Yeah.
Abaji, and Mobo.
Yeah,
If
Mogbo,
they
yeah,
don't,
yeah.
if they say Mogbo or Achi Agbaji or something like that, then they haven't watched a game.
Although
So
you know what tripped me up? I remember watching a media day video of Scottie and Mobo, and Scottie was like, "What's up? I'm here with Jonathan Mogbo," and I'm like, "You what? What?
he is
That
a
doesn't make
troll,
any
man.
sense." I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Are we wrong or what the?
Yeah, exactly. So I've made sure 100 times to say Jonathan Mobo, but if
Yeah.
his best friend is saying Mogbo, maybe he's messing with him. I don't know, but
Like it's
that's
just the
a
way it is. Like Shams Charania always said OG Anunoby
Mhm.
until he was on the Knicks, and then all of a sudden it's Anunoby. All of a sudden he knows how to say it, right? So it's like you see that happen where it's like the widespread of the NBA discovers these players once they've left the Raptors. Oh my gosh, Pascal Siakam's good.
They've
After
emerged
we've been
from the void.
Yeah, after we've been
Yeah.
screaming it for years, right? So I'm never surprised when players are underrated. Like I think in general, if another team had acquired BI, there would be more widespread appreciation for that team getting BI.
Yeah.
Like if Atlanta Hawks had gotten him, they would be getting all the gas for it and stuff like that. So it is what it is, and it's kind of fun to be the underdog and
Yeah.
unexpected, right?
Yeah, you're gonna get an article, and you're gonna get an article from I don't know the Ringer or the Athletic or something. Shout out to my guys, but like you're gonna get a "Where did the Raptors come from?" article.
Yeah.
In January if they're in the playoff race. Like that's just how it works for these things. I bet we're gonna get a bunch of Orlando Magic puff pieces if they end up
Yeah.
winning like 55 games this year. So it's just the way the media stuff ends up shaking out. You can't know about all 30 teams that well.
Yeah.
You
But-
really can't. It's tough, but yeah.
To the listeners, start bookmarking tweets. Start bookmarking tweets. You're going to need those. Do you know how much engagement you can get on tweets where you're roasting some person who said that the Raptors are going to finish 14th? And listen, this is like a prime example of counting chickens before they hatch, but I'm okay
yeah.
with it.
Yeah, they're gonna screen record this and show it to
Yeah.
jump on us.
Maybe it would have been better if we didn't get the stream to work. All right, S. Steve, do you have any other questions? Do you want to pick S's brain on any other particular things here?
Chucky Hepburn. So
Ooh.
Chucky Hepburn has been pretty interesting. Do you think that there's a real competition between him and Jamal Shed right now?
I do not think so. No. I think Chucky is really cool. Really awesome player. Obviously off to a really great start in preseason, but I do think they probably envision him to be a G League guy for them this year, working the 905. And maybe that changes throughout the year. Maybe like Shed is just not cutting it halfway through the season and we see Chucky in 905 killing it. And so they maybe call him up and he ends up playing. Also, knowing the fact that he's a two-way guy, he's going to get opportunity to play with the team anyways. He's got that certain allotment of games that he can play. Maybe he works his way to that. But I think out the gate, because they probably don't want to waste those games, he probably ends up going with the 905. 905 season starts November 5th, I believe. Okay. So they got a couple weeks of those guys being with the team before they get sent off. Maybe they get some run then. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be part of the rotation this year.
Yeah, that's what I figured as well. But it's just so good for that push to be there between him and Jamal Shed. That internal competition is so great. Like one of my favorite things about CMB so far is his ability to push the other guys and his potential to improve Scottie Barnes and his handle just by going against that guy in practice all the time, right? So yeah, I love that internal competition, and yeah, I agree. He's probably 905 bound, but it is definitely cool to see the
Totally.
working out for another undrafted guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's legit too. There's a couple guys at the end of this rotation where you're like, man, like
Hmm.
is Jamison Battle going to get run this year? Because I think
Yeah.
he's pretty good. You
Hmm.
know, is Chucky Hepburn going to get run this year? I think he's good. Is Mobo going to pan out for everybody else? I know there's a lot of Mobo haters out here. I'm on the opposite side of things.
I'm
I'm
a Mobo guy. Yeah.
a
Yeah,
believer.
I'm most of the way there.
Okay, all right,
I'm most of the way
we'll get
there.
you there. We'll get you
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Just
Yeah.
get him to
So
stop handling the ball, and I'll be on his
I
side.
think he won't be allowed to this year for this team. But like, there's just a couple of guys from 11 to 14 where you're like, they're probably not going to play that much, but
Mhm.
they should get opportunity. And at the very least, to your point, that's competition. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah. Okay, well, do you have anything you want to plug here? I know that your athletic show has been picking up steam. Why don't you let our listeners know where they can reach you, where they can find you, what they should be looking out for from
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Listen to the Athletic NBA Daily. It is not a Raptors show, unfortunately, but it is a show where we talk about all of the NBA, including the Toronto Raptors. Hopefully, the Raptors will be more interesting and more entertaining for us all, but especially for the show so that we can cover them more frequently. It was kind of tough to cover them last year with
Try to
with
shoehorn
the
them in.
interest, yeah, with the interest waning, but maybe they're a little bit more interesting this year to bring in. So tap into the Athletic NBA Daily. We do, as it says in the title, daily podcasts covering the NBA. Also, check out Raptors Republic if you haven't already. We do a lot of podcasting work there. I do my Raptors recaps there after every game. So, yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for having me on.
Oh,
Thanks for
our
coming on. Yeah.
pleasure. Yep. Thank you for coming on.
Of course.
And Steve S. And from myself, I just want to thank you guys for tuning in to Raptors Report podcast. We're going to continue to find some guests, bring them on the show, pick their brains, talk to them. And hopefully you guys are able to watch and listen and enjoy. And as always, thank you guys for tuning in to Raptors Report, your source for in-depth Raptors content. Cheers.